Hidden beside Maple Hill Cemetery in Huntsville, Alabama, sits a small playground unlike any other. Locals say the swings move by themselves after midnight, and ghostly laughter echoes through the trees. The story goes that during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, countless children were buried nearby, and their spirits still come out to play. City workers once tried to remove the playground, but after strange accidents, they stopped. It still remains there today. Alaskan Inuit legend warns of the Qualupalik, a green-skinned creature lurking beneath the ice, humming softly to lure children too close to the shore. When a kid leans in to listen, it drags them into the freezing sea, never to return. Parents once told this story to keep their kids safe from thin ice, but modern sightings near coastal villages keep the fear alive. Fishermen report eerie voices on the wind and ripples where no one stands. In the deserts of the Southwest, in Arizona, whispers tell of the skinwalkers, evil witches who can transform into animals, mimic human voices, and stalk anyone who crosses them. Originating in Navajo lore, modern reports describe pale figures running alongside cars at impossible speeds, or creatures shifting shapes under moonlight. Locals around Skinwalker Ranch claim livestock mutilations and strange lights in the sky. Even saying the word skinwalker aloud is said to attract them. Deep in the Ozarks near Fayetteville, Arkansas, stands Ghost Mountain, a ridge haunted by tragedy. According to local legend, a young woman took her life there after her lover betrayed her, and her wails still echo through the valley. Hikers report hearing footsteps behind them, seeing lantern lights flicker between the trees, and feeling invisible hands push them toward the cliff's edge. Locals claim fog gathers only around the mountain's peak, and anyone who hears her final scream will lose their life within the year. Along the cliffs of Big Sur, California, travelers sometimes notice silent, towering silhouettes standing on the ridges, motionless, faceless, and watching. Known as the Dark Watchers, these shadowy figures have been seen for centuries by hikers, ranchers, and even early Spanish settlers. They vanish if you approach, but some say staring too long brings madness or an untimely demise. In the 1990s, a Colorado Springs family moved into a quiet cabin surrounded by pine trees, and straight into a nightmare. Cameras captured glowing orbs, shadowy figures, and even faces peering from walls. Lights flickered, objects flew, and the family heard footsteps pacing the attic at night. Paranormal teams called it one of America's most haunted homes, and even police couldn't explain the evidence. In Connecticut, deep in the woods of Cornwall, lie the ruins of Dudleytown, where visitors claim the air feels wrong. Too still, too heavy. Settled in the 1700s, nearly every resident met a violent or mysterious end, giving rise to talk of a family curse tied to madness and death. Today, hikers report disembodied whispers, strange shadows, and sudden nausea when they enter the ruins. In Delaware, Pea Patch Island once held thousands of Confederate prisoners during the Civil War, many of whom starved or froze in the overcrowded fortress. Visitors to the old fort say their spirits never left. Tourists hear chains dragging through the tunnels, see phantom soldiers on the walls, and feel unseen hands on their shoulders. Guides have quit after being locked inside by something they couldn't see. In Casadaga's Lake Helen Cemetery in Florida sits an ordinary-looking brick bench with an extraordinary legend. They say if you sit on it at midnight, the devil appears or whispers in your ear. Some who tried claim to feel a burning touch or saw glowing eyes in the dark. Others say beer cans left on the chair disappear overnight, as if he drank them himself. Beneath Georgia's Lake Lanier lies a drowned town, entire buildings, cemeteries, and the remains of people displaced when the lake was created in the 1950s. Since then, hundreds of swimmers and boaters have lost their lives mysteriously, and locals blame the angry spirits below. It's said that ghostly hands drag victims underwater, with many claiming they've seen shadowy figures just beneath the surface. Across the Hawaiian Islands, people fear the night marchers, phantom warriors who appear after dark, carrying torches and beating ancient drums. They're said to be the spirits of fallen Hawaiian soldiers, still marching in their sacred paths. Witnesses report hearing rhythmic chanting before seeing glowing lights moving in formation. The only way to survive an encounter is to lie flat on the ground and never make eye contact. Near Pocatello, Idaho, the Snake River hides a legend born from tragedy. During a brutal famine in the 1800s, native mothers drowned their infants to spare them from starvation. Their cries, it's said, still echo over the water at night. Some who follow the sound see ghostly babies crawling from the river, trying to pull the living down to join them. It's one of Idaho's oldest and most heartbreaking hauntings. Chicago's most famous ghost walks Archer Avenue in a white party dress, waiting for a ride. Drivers pick her up, only for her to vanish before they reach Resurrection Cemetery. The story dates back to the 1930s, when a young woman supposedly lost her life in a car crash after a night of dancing. Since then, countless witnesses have seen her walking alone in the cold, trying to find her way home. In Clay County, Indiana, Carpenter Cemetery is known for a staircase, said to have 100 steps. Legend says if you climb them at midnight and count every step, you'll see a vision of your own death when you reach the top. But if you miscount, a ghostly undertaker drags you straight to hell. Visitors claim they've felt invisible hands pushing them or seen footprints appear in the dirt behind them. In Iowa City stands a towering bronze angel that turned completely black soon after it was built, and no one knows why. Locals say it's cursed. Those who touch it, kiss it, or even point at it risk a sudden demise within a year. Some say the statue darkened as punishment for the sins of the woman buried beneath it, as it absorbs the souls of the living. In Atchison, Kansas, a charming old home hides one of the most terrifying hauntings in America. It's said to be possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Sally, who lost her life during a failed surgery. But the entity inside doesn't act like a child. Visitors have been scratched, burned, and shoved by something unseen. Paranormal investigators have captured growls, cold spots, and moving objects. Just outside Louisville, Kentucky, locals tell of a half-man, half-goat creature that lures victims onto the train tracks running over Pope Lick Creek. The legend says it can mimic voices to draw people up onto the bridge, only for an oncoming train to seal their fate. Some believe it's a cursed farmer. Others say it's the result of secret experiments. Police have confirmed that people have lost their lives daring to cross the bridge at night. In St. Francisville, Louisiana, one of America's most haunted homes hides beneath Spanish moss. Built in 1796, the Myrtles Plantation is said to be cursed by the spirit of Chloe, an enslaved woman who was executed after accidentally poisoning the family. Guests report her green-turbaned ghost wandering the halls, doors slamming by themselves, and handprints appearing on mirrors. The Myrtles is called the most haunted plantation in the South. Along a lonely stretch of Route 182 between Franklin and Cherryfield in the state of Maine, drivers say a pale woman in a white dress appears out of nowhere, begging for help. When they stop, she vanishes, or screams before disappearing in the headlights. Locals believe she lost her life in a car crash decades ago, still searching for her fiancé who never came. Witnesses have seen her near the old bridge or heard sobbing from the woods. In the woods outside Bowie, Maryland, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a goat stalks Lover's Lane at night. The Goat Man is said to wield an axe and attack cars, leaving claw marks and blood behind. Some say he was a scientist mutilated by a failed experiment. Others claim he's a demon that feeds on fear. Reports of animal mutilations in the 1950s and 1970s, including decapitated dogs, fueled the legend. Covering over 200 square miles of southeastern Massachusetts, the Bridgewater Triangle is a hotspot of pure strangeness. People have reported UFOs, glowing orbs, phantom fires, cult rituals, and even Bigfoot-like creatures in the swamps. The area's dark history, Native American battles, murders, and disappearances seem to fuel the activity. Locals call it New England's Bermuda Triangle, where compasses spin and time seems to warp. Northern Michigan's Dog Man has terrified locals for generations, a tall, wolf-like creature that walks on two legs and howls like a man screaming. The first reports date back to the 1800s, but modern sightings exploded after a 1987 radio song described the beast. Hunters claim to hear heavy footsteps pacing behind them, and drivers report glowing eyes in the woods. The Dog Man is said to appear every 10 years, bringing death or disaster. Beneath the streets of St. Paul, Minnesota, lie the old Wabasha Street Caves, once a Prohibition-era speakeasy where gangsters partied and sometimes disappeared. 3 mobsters were supposedly gunned down inside during a card game, but their bodies were never found. Today, visitors report seeing men in 1930s suits vanishing into the walls, hearing jazz music echoing through the empty tunnels, and icy hands brush their shoulders. The lights flicker, glasses fall, and ghostly laughter fills the dark. A woman living deep in the Yazoo swamps was accused of luring sailors to their untimely ends. When her crimes were discovered, angry townsfolk chased her through the woods, where she tripped, fell into quicksand, and sank, cursing Yazoo City with her dying breath. She swore the town would burn to the ground in exactly 20 years. On May 25, 1904, a massive fire destroyed nearly everything, just as she promised. Just outside St. Louis, Missouri, deep in the woods near the Merrimack River, lies a decaying trail known as Zombie Road. Once a railroad path, it's now a magnet for ghost hunters and thrill seekers. The area's dark history includes fatal train accidents, drownings, and murders, leaving behind restless spirits said to stalk the road. Visitors report whispers, shadow figures, and glowing eyes watching from the trees. Along the frozen roads outside Great Falls, Montana, drivers tell of a woman in a torn white dress, her face pale and eyes hollow. She appears suddenly on the roadside, soaking wet, begging for help. When the drivers stop, she vanishes, or reappears in the back seat, screaming in terror. Some say her life was ended in a hit-and-run decades ago, doomed to relive the moment of her passing. Outside Nebraska City, a winding dirt road cuts through the rolling hills known as Seven Sisters Road. Legend says a man once led his 7 sisters into the woods and hanged them, one by one, from the trees that still line the path. Locals claim their spirits never left. Drivers report headlights flickering, screams echoing from the hills, and ghostly figures swaying in the branches. In the lonely desert town of Tonopah, Nevada, stands the world-famous Clown Motel. Thousands of clown dolls stare from every corner, their painted smiles cracked with age. Next door lies a century-old cemetery filled with miners who lost their lives in a nearby fire. Guests report whispers, footsteps in empty rooms, and dolls that move on their own. Some wake to find their belongings rearranged, or a clown's porcelain face inches from their bed. High in the White Mountains of New Hampshire stands the Grand Omni Mount Washington Resort, where one guest is said to have never checked out. According to legend, Carol Stickney, the hotel owner's wife, still wanders her old suite, room 314, dressed in her wedding gown. Guests report seeing her brushing her hair before the mirror, hearing soft footsteps, or smelling her lilac perfume when no one's there. It's said she waits for her husband, who met an untimely end before their dream resort was finished. For over 250 years, the Pine Barrens of New Jersey have been home to the state's most infamous monster, the Jersey Devil. According to legend, it was the cursed 13th child of Mother Leeds, born human but transforming into a winged, hooved creature that shrieks through the night. In 1909, hundreds claimed to see it flying over towns, closing schools and factories. It's been blamed for livestock deaths and eerie screams echoing through the forest. On desolate highways near Albuquerque, New Mexico, drivers tell of La Mala Hora, the evil hour. She appears as a black-cloaked woman with glowing eyes, standing in the road just before tragedy strikes. Some say she's a demonic spirit that drives travelers mad. Others call her a death omen who marks the next to die. Victims report time slowing, headlights flickering, and her face shifting into a skull before disappearing. Even police officers avoid certain roads at night. For decades, Staten Island parents warned their kids about Cropsey, the hook-handed madman who lived in the abandoned Willowbrook State School, snatching children who strayed too far. But the legend blurred with reality when real children began disappearing in the 1980s. The arrest of a drifter named Andre Rand, who once worked at Willowbrook, only deepened the fear. Was Cropsey a man, a myth, or both? Deep in the woods near Siler City, North Carolina, lies a perfect barren circle where nothing grows. Locals call it the Devil's Tramping Ground. They say Satan himself walks there at midnight, pacing in circles as he plots evil deeds. Campers who leave objects inside the circle find them thrown out by morning. And brave souls who spend the night report whispers, growls, and glowing red lights in the dark. Near the submerged town of Sanish, now under Lake Sakakawea, fishermen whisper about the White Lady, a ghostly woman who roams the mist around Spring Lake. Long ago, her husband drowned their children in a jealous rage before taking his own life. Since then, she's been seen gliding across the water, weeping and calling their names. Those who follow her voice are said to vanish beneath the surface, dragged down by unseen hands. Outside Lorain County, Ohio, sits the charred remains of what locals call the Gore Orphanage. Legend says the orphanage burned down long ago, trapping dozens of children inside. Visitors at night claim to hear their screams echoing through the ruins, or see tiny handprints appear in the dust. The truth? No such orphanage ever existed. But that hasn't stopped generations from swearing they felt something cold tug at their clothes in the dark. Hidden in the woods near Spencer, Oklahoma, lies the ruins of a stone basement known as the Purple Church. Locals say it's a meeting place for satanic rituals, animal sacrifices, and dark ceremonies that date back to the 1970s. Visitors claim to find pentagrams painted on the walls, bones arranged in circles, and strange chanting echoing through the trees. Some report feeling physically ill or scratched by something invisible. On the foggy cliffs of Cannon Beach, Oregon, truckers and surfers tell of a horrific figure wrapped head to toe in bloody bandages. The Bandage Man appears on Highway 101, leaping onto moving cars or slipping into the back of pickup trucks, then vanishing, leaving only the stench of decay behind. Drivers who see him report feeling cold hands on their necks and hearing faint laughter on the wind. Deep in the woods of York County, Pennsylvania, lies a road said to lead to the 7 gates of hell. The story goes that a mental asylum once stood there, and after a fire, the surviving inmates escaped into the forest. A doctor built 7 iron gates to trap their souls, But passing through all 7 opens a doorway straight to hell itself. Only the truly foolish have ever tried, and none have returned. In the 1890s, the Brown family of Exeter, Rhode Island, was ravaged by tuberculosis, then called consumption. When young Mercy Brown lost her life, villagers exhumed her body and found it unnervingly preserved. Convinced she was a vampire feeding on the living, they burned her heart and mixed the ashes into a tonic for her dying brother. He perished soon after, and Mercy's legend began. Visitors to her grave report choking sensations, whispers in the air, and glowing red eyes between the trees. In 1988, a teenager in Bishopville, South Carolina, reported that a 7-foot reptilian creature attacked his car near Scape Ore Swamp. Police found what looked like deep claw marks and bite impressions in the metal, and soon the town was in a frenzy. Witnesses described the lizard man as green, scaly, and strong enough to crush steel. Over the years, sightings spread, with some claiming it drags livestock into the swamp. On the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, teens speak of a tall, faceless figure in a dark hat known as Walking Sam. He's said to whisper thoughts of despair into the minds of the young, luring them into the woods where they're never seen again. The legend gained attention after a wave of tragic real-life incidents of people taking their own lives, with locals claiming Sam was to blame. In the early 1800s, the Bell family of Adams, Tennessee, was tormented by a violent, unseen spirit. It spoke in different voices, slapped family members, and even poisoned the father, John Bell. Neighbors heard it laughing and singing hymns at night, and General Andrew Jackson himself supposedly fled after witnessing its power. Today, visitors to the Bell Witch Cave report hearing voices and rocks flying through the air. In towns across Texas, people tell stories of pale, emotionless children with pitch-black eyes who knock on doors late at night. They speak in calm, monotone voices, asking to come inside to use the phone or call their parents. Those who let them in report feeling paralyzed with dread, and sometimes falling mysteriously ill afterward. The legend began in the 1990s, but keeps spreading online, with hundreds claiming first-hand encounters. Inside Utah's Escalante Petrified Forest State Park, visitors are warned not to take even a pebble of the ancient wood, or risk a terrifying curse. Every year, the park receives packages of sorry rocks mailed back from the people who stole them. Their letters tell of car crashes, sickness, breakups, and sudden loss of life striking soon after the theft. Rangers keep the cursed stones in boxes marked with notes of regret. In the 1950s, a teenager disappeared near Northfield, Vermont, and was later seen stalking the woods, wearing a pig's head. Since then, locals have reported a creature with a human body and a pig-like snout, prowling around Devil's Wash Bowl. It's said to leave animal bones hanging from the trees and mutilated livestock in nearby fields. Some say it's the missing boy transformed by a satanic ritual. Others think it's a feral hermit who lost his mind. In Fairfax County, Virginia, an urban legend was born in 1970 when a man in a rabbit costume began attacking cars near a small overpass. Newspapers reported real police investigations into the Bunny Man, and soon stories grew of an escaped asylum inmate who slaughtered teens and hung their bodies under the bridge. Locals claim to hear scratching sounds, see an axe-wielding figure, or find animal carcasses left behind. At Maltby Cemetery in Washington once stood a staircase descending deep underground, known as the 13 Steps to Hell. Those who reached the bottom claimed to see visions of fire, screaming faces, and the gates of the underworld itself. Some never came back. The stairs were sealed decades ago, But visitors still hear faint screams rising from the earth and say the ground where it stood is colder than the rest of the hill. In November 1966, two young couples near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, reported a towering, winged figure with glowing red eyes chasing their car through the dark. Over the next year, hundreds of witnesses claimed to see the same thing, some describing it as part bird, part man, nearly 7 feet tall with a 10-foot wingspan. Fear gripped the town as pets vanished, lights flashed in the sky, and the Mothman seemed to appear before disasters. In the farmlands near Elkhorn, Wisconsin, locals whisper about a terrifying creature known as the Beast of Bray Road. Described as a massive, wolf-like monster walking on two legs, it's been sighted since the 1930s, and more frequently since the 1990s. Drivers say it chases their cars, leaving claw marks on metal and glowing eyes in their rearview mirrors. Farmers have found livestock torn apart and strange tracks too large for any known animal. On freezing February nights along Wyoming's Platte River, witnesses have reported a phantom sailing ship rising from the mist, its sails and deck covered in ice, its crew frozen stiff at their posts. The legend says the ghostly vessel appears to those about to experience grave tragedy, revealing the face of the doomed wrapped in a shroud on deck. No one knows where the ship comes from or where it goes, only that when it sails, death is never far behind. Whether it's ghosts, monsters, curses, or warnings, all these urban legends reveal something about the people there, their state, what they fear, what they regret, and part of their history. That said, tell us a bit about you. What's your favorite urban legend? And do you believe it? Thanks for watching. See you next time.